Ballerina left a considerable dent in the quarterly revenue of Lionsgate, but does it deserve to be a flop? Well, if you don't have 2 hours and 4 minutes, don't worry, I watched Ballerina so you don't have to. By the by, I'm the movie guy and let's start this video. We start off with Eve when she was a child. We see her briefly receiving a ballerina doll from her father, and then in the middle of the night they are attacked by some masked men. Cue the start of the first action scene. Her dad fights the man, hides Eve, and then gets beat up by the man who had the clear number advantage. The Chancellor comes in, offers her dad a 1-bullet revolver. He either kills himself and his daughter will live, or he can fight with it and they will both die. He chooses to fight, and at the end it is Eve who comes out of hiding to kill the only man left who had the upper hand on her dad. However, because of injuries, her dad dies, leaving her alone in the world. At the police station, Winston tells Eve that he can take her to his father's family, who might one day become her own. She accepts the offer. She's taken to meet the director, and after she nails her interview, she's now part of the Ruska Roma. Winston gives her a coin, claiming that he will forever help her if she needs it. And then boom, time jump 12 years later. The Ruska Roma, as we've been shown in the previous John Wick installments, is not your typical ballerina school. Eve has to learn how to be a ballerina, but she also learns judo, shooting, grappling, and all other things that assassins have to be good at. In fact, it's weird that they even bother with the ballerina stuff. It's like the director fell in love with the legit business and decided to not care about the real one. And then John Wick appears. I think his role here is for us to figure out where in the series we are at, which is John Wick 3. Eve speaks a little with John, trying to find out how she can become like good old Baba Yaga. And his reply is, I think you already are. Because you see, before this, Eve took her final exam, which is her against another girl. They had to assemble a gun and kill the other. And Eve won despite starting later. And all of a sudden, Eve is on her first job. Let's take a breather before starting Act 2, and I'm gonna offer my thoughts thus far. First of all, it's a slow beginning. We did have that action scene, but it felt like it lacked something. It felt very scripted, and I think that fights in John Wick usually feel more natural. I don't know how much John Wick is going to be a part of this movie, but I think it says a lot that they felt like they needed to add him in. I don't think that they really believed in this project in the end. And I don't think Ana de Armas is the correct actor for this type of role, but I could be wrong. Let's move on. Even though she dons the same awesome tattoos as her father in John Wick, she can't quite fill their shoes just yet. Her first assignment has her protect 2 people from danger inside a nightclub with an icy stage. It's a fun gimmick fight with Eve taking a lot of damage, falling down on ice, but also dishing out plenty of hurt. In the end, she defeats the leader of the gang that was harassing her client and completes her assignment. Another time jump, this time only 2 months later. Eve is a badass, defeating another club full of, well, let's call them bad guys, but we only see her leaving the scene of the victory. I love these neon-drenched interiors that this movie has thus far. Interestingly enough, when she leaves in a car, she gets rammed by someone else and enter another good fighting scene. Both this one and the one in the club had some very good looking stunts. I definitely liked them. The last goon had an X on his forearm, and she remembers that the man who killed her father also had that. Time for revenge, perhaps? Eve needs some answers from the director. She brings the man's severed hand with the mark to ask her about them. I think she could have just described the sign, it doesn't look that common. The director warns her to not go out and seek these men, but Eve wants revenge, so she goes to the Continental to meet Winston, trades in her coin, and Winston advises her against chasing these men. These guys kill for sport, he says. He's a man of his word though, and when the coin is traded, he gives her intel. There is a Daniel Pine in Prague in the Continental. Maybe he has some information for her? She takes the info and leaves. In Prague, Eve is about to do more harm than good. She checks into the hotel, takes a room right next to Pine's, luckily it was available, wink wink, and she enters his room. But a lot of people were downstairs who were looking for Daniel Pine. There's a $2 million contract on his head, and he was raised to $4 million after even him chat in his room. So now people break the rules of the hotel for this $4 million, which doesn't make sense, right? Because they should be killed for conducting business on continental ground, right? But you see, Pine is not a bad guy, which makes sense because he's played by beloved actor Norman Reedus. He just wants to protect his daughter, and he needs Eve's help for this. Pine and Eve tried their best to escape the men after them, but there are just too many. Pine gets shot, Eve gets knocked out, Pine's girl Ella is taken, and now Eve is in the hands of Continental Security. Eve starts tattling, telling them that she did not kill anyone, that she did not start this, and in the end it goes against the saying. Snitches don't get stitches in this one, as Eve is spared and the others are killed. However, she still needs to find Ella and the man who killed her father, who we find out in the next scene is also responsible for the hit on Pine and Ella. This was the midpoint. Let's talk about it for a little bit. The movie has indeed picked up a lot more action. It feels more like a movie in the John Wick series, but Eve is also made to look completely new to all of this, which I really like. I think that only now, after 1 hour, we are getting to the interesting story part. Everything up until now feels like something that I haven't seen before in the series. Backstory. It's made me closer to Eve, I guess, but I don't think that it helped the overall narrative. Let's continue. Eve goes to a hunting shop. She needs information on the men and guns. While there, they are attacked by the bad guys because I still don't know their names, so we'll just call them bad guys. And in comes a crazy action scene featuring grenades. There are some gnarly kills here, and it feels like Ballerina is more focused on bigger, crazier, but shorter action scenes than those long ones from John Wick. In the end, she finds out their general location, gets some guns, a car, and drives over to them. Eve arrives at their camp, but she does not know it yet. Everyone in the small town is part of this tribe, and she figures it out when she's attacked by 10 people, including police officers, cooks, normal pedestrians, and even a kid using a finger gun. There's another amazing action scene. Eve utilizes a gun, a knife, plates, skillets, and more in combat. Despite giving her best, she can't fight an entire town. She's soon knocked down, but not killed because of her affiliation to Roskaruma. The Chancellor appears again, third time in 1 hour and 20 minutes, and things get a bit dumb. The Chancellor and Eve are face to face. He wants to know why she came. She tells her of vengeance, and then he realizes who she is. Eve is the sister of his right-hand gal. Eve escapes her bind, kills the people inside, her sister goes after her, and they meet in a cabin and talk about their differences for a bit until the Chancellor gives the order to kill both of them. Of course, Eve doesn't die, but her sister does. So now she has 3 reasons to kill the man that only appeared for 3 scenes. The Chancellor tries one last trick. He calls the director and threatens her with war. The director caves in, and she sends a warrior capable of killing her in exchange for peace. Quick final stop before the end. The story is not the strongest point. I am a firm believer that action movies do not need the strongest of narratives, and this one is, I guess, serviceable. It's probably in between decent and bad. The sister plot twist, the Chancellor barely appearing, the long backstory, these have not helped. But after 1 hour and 30 minutes, I'm not bored and I want more action. Give me more. The third act is always so difficult to recap because it's usually just action. That special someone sent to deal with Eve is John Wick, and they have a brief fight before Eve begs for him to let her finish her revenge. John gives her 28 minutes. At midnight, she has to leave whether she killed the Chancellor or not. So she starts fighting away in the village. There's hand-to-hand fighting, gunfighting, rollerblade fighting, flamethrower versus flamethrower, hydrant versus flamethrower, and in the end it's John Wick saving her from a possible death. That just means that Eve can now go get revenge or take back the kid or whatever she's fighting for. She shoots the Chancellor in the head immediately, doesn't give him a fighting chance, which was smart, and that was it. Ella returns to her dad, who is apparently not dead, and now Eve has a $5 million contract on her head. And just like that, problem solved. $5 million on her head, a new chapter ahead, but first, coffee. Ballerina is an interesting mix of good actions and bad ideas everywhere else. The story is poor. It throws a revenge tale and a kidnapped child tale at you and doesn't develop either particularly well, which is a shame because that makes the ending feel bland. It doesn't continue upon the lore like the other John Wick movies. The action is more focused on big set pieces rather than on the natural fighting. Keanu Reeves and Norman Reedus have very limited roles, especially Reedus, Like, why get him in just for 2 scenes when John Wick has always prided itself on great and unexpected side actors like Donnie Yen, Halle Berry, Lawrence Fishburne, and others? However, the action is really good, very impressive, and in the end, Ana de Armas grew on me. It's safe to say that this is the worst John Wick movie, but it's fun. Like, even a bad John Wick movie is still a decent action flick. What did you think of Ballerina? Let me know down in the comments. While you are there, press that like and subscribe button, and until next time, keep on watching movies, guys.